All right, let's talk about focus. Real focus. Not the kind of focus where you just try to do a lot of things well. No, I'm talking about the kind of laser focus that cuts through all the noise, all the distractions, all the good ideas that ultimately lead to mediocrity. This is what I call ruthless elimination, and it was my secret, my blueprint for bringing Apple back from the brink and then pushing it to redefine entire industries. This is the power of no. When I came back to Apple in 1997, it was a mess, a sprawling, unfocused mess. We were bleeding money, losing market share, and frankly, losing our identity. The company was spread thin across dozens of product lines, printers, peripherals, all sorts of varied Macintosh versions, even that Newton handheld. It was a confusing, diluted mess, and it was driving us straight into the ground. We were quite literally 90 days from being insolvent, 90 days from going out of business. That's not a hypothetical. That was the cold, hard reality staring us in the face. I looked at that chaos, and I knew with absolute certainty that we couldn't innovate. We couldn't create anything insanely great if we were trying to do 1,000 things at once. Innovation, true innovation, isn't about saying yes to every promising idea. It's about having the courage, the conviction to say no to 1,000 things. Even the good things, especially the good things. Because if you don't say no, you end up with 1,000 half-baked ideas. And that's just a recipe for pervasive mediocrity. My philosophy, what I termed ruthless elimination or strategic indifference, was simple. If it didn't align with our core vision, if it wasn't essential, it had to go. No matter how profitable it might have seemed, no matter how many people liked it, if it was a distraction from the truly vital few, it was dead weight. This wasn't just about cutting costs. It was about freeing up our most critical resources, our brilliant engineers, our designers, our marketing talent, and most importantly, our collective energy and focus. It was about concentrating intensely on a select few products that could truly be insanely great, products that could change the world. This radical simplification was crucial. It freed up critical resources, top talent, and organizational energy, enabling Apple to concentrate intensely on a select few insanely great products. Let me tell you, making those cuts wasn't easy. When I returned to Apple, my immediate and most impactful action was to slash our product line by 70%. 70%. Imagine the shockwaves that sent through the company. People had poured their lives into these products, these projects. They had built careers around them. They had emotional attachments. But it wasn't a sentimental decision. It was a strategic imperative. We were on the verge of bankruptcy, and drastic measures were the only path to survival. This wasn't just a corporate restructuring. It was a bold, decisive act of strategic focus. It was about survival. Yes, but more than that, it was about reclaiming our soul, our purpose. It was about saying, we are Apple, we do this, and we do it better than anyone else. This principle, ruthless elimination, is about more than just cutting fat. It's about cutting muscle. If that muscle isn't serving the absolute core mission, it's about understanding that every yes to a new initiative is a no to something else, whether you realize it or not. And if you're saying yes to too many things, you're saying no to true excellence in anything. For me, focus wasn't just a buzzword. It was the oxygen Apple needed to breathe again. It was the only way we could escape the suffocating grip of mediocrity and inefficiency that had nearly killed us. We had to reject the hundreds of other seemingly good ideas that could divert our precious finite resources. This radical simplification was crucial. It freed up our critical resources, our top talent, and our organizational energy, enabling Apple to concentrate intensely on a select few insanely great products. Let's look at some concrete examples. When I came back, the product line was a sprawling, confusing mess. We had dozens of varied Macintosh versions, printers, peripherals, and the Newton PDA. It was a chaotic landscape, and it was diluting our brand, confusing our customers, and draining our engineering talent. My first move was to take a red pen and slash through 70% of it. This wasn't just a corporate restructuring. It was a bold and decisive demonstration of strategic focus. This drastic measure was critical for a company that was 90 days from being insolvent. I remember walking into those product review meetings, looking at the endless parade of mediocre products, and feeling a profound sense of despair. How could we possibly create anything truly great when our energy was so fragmented? The answer was we couldn't. Not like that. The sheer volume of products meant that none of them could receive the truly focused attention, the rigorous refinement, the passionate advocacy required to be insanely great. We were trying to please everyone, and in doing so, we were pleasing no one. We were building a house of cards, not a foundation for the future. I saw engineers stretched thin across multiple competing projects, designers compromising their vision to meet unrealistic timelines, and marketing teams struggling to differentiate an indistinguishable array of products. This wasn't just inefficiency, it was a slow, painful death by 1,000 paper cuts. My job, my only job at that moment, was to stop the bleeding, to bring clarity to the chaos, and to instill a singular, uncompromising vision that everyone could rally around. One of the most controversial yet illustrative aspects of this decision was the elimination of the Newton. Now, the Newton was Apple's handheld personal digital assistant. It was profitable. It had a dedicated user base. People liked it. It was, by all conventional metrics, a viable product. But I looked at it and I saw a distraction, a significant distraction from Apple's true potential. It was a good product, sure, but it wasn't insanely great. It wasn't going to redefine anything. It wasn't going to dent the universe. It was a profitable side venture, a technological curiosity, but it consumed disproportionate amounts of engineering talent, marketing attention, and executive time. It was a product that represented Apple's past, not its future. By choosing to completely disregard the Newton's viability, I exemplified the principle of strategic indifference. It took courage to deliberately ignore a viable, profitable opportunity for the sake of what was truly essential for our future success. It was about saying, this is good, but it's not us. It's not where we need to put our energy if we're going to make a dent in the universe. I knew that if we kept pouring resources into good enough products, we'd never have the capacity, the focus, the sheer mental bandwidth to create something truly revolutionary. The Newton, for all its merits, was a relic of a past, unfocused Apple. It had to go. It was a painful cut, yes, but it was a necessary one. It was a clear signal to everyone in the company. We are no longer dabbling. We are no longer chasing every shiny object. We are focusing, we are committing, and that commitment starts with what we don't do. It was a stark lesson for the entire organization. A good idea that doesn't align with the core driving mission is still a distraction, and in our fight for survival, we could afford no distractions. To solidify this focus, I implemented what I called the 4-quadrant product strategy. I simplified Apple's sprawling, confusing product offerings into a clear, elegant 2x2 grid. On one axis, you had consumer versus pro. On the other, desktop versus portable. Our explicit goal was to develop one truly great product in each quadrant. That's it, 4 products, not dozens, not hundreds. This strategic clarity was a direct catalyst for Apple's dramatic financial recovery. We went from a staggering $1.04 billion loss in 1997 to a $309 million profit just 1 year later. That's not magic. That's the power of focus, the power of ruthless elimination. It freed up our resources, our talent, our collective genius, and allowed us to concentrate on building the iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad, products that would truly change the world. This wasn't just about making money, it was about making meaning. And you can't make meaning if you're spread thin, trying to be everything to everyone. You have to choose. You have to commit. The 4-quadrant strategy wasn't just a diagram, it was a declaration. It was our North Star, guiding every decision, every engineering effort, every marketing campaign. It forced us to ask, does this fit into one of our 4 quadrants? Is it the best product for that quadrant? If not, why are we even talking about it? This relentless questioning, this unwavering adherence to the grid, was what brought us back from the brink. It provided an unmistakable roadmap, a clear sense of purpose that permeated every department and every team. Suddenly, everyone understood the game plan. The diffused energy of hundreds of projects coalesced into the laser focus on 4. This simplification was so radical, so obvious in hindsight, that it became a legend in itself. It allowed us to pour all our passion, all our creative fire, into a few magnificent products, rather than scattering our brilliance across a multitude of mediocre ones. I often use the Nike analogy to emphasize the power of this kind of focus. Nike, I'd explain, doesn't talk about the features of their shoes. They talk about great athletes and great athletics. They communicate their core values, their essence, by focusing on what truly matters to their brand's identity and connection with their audience. They simplify the message. They concentrate on the core. That's what I wanted for Apple. Not a list of features, but a clear, compelling story about what we stood for, what we were trying to achieve. And you can't tell that story, you can't live that story, if you're spread too thin. You can't be a great athlete if you're trying to play every sport at once. You have to pick your game, and then you have to dominate it. That's what Nike understood, and that's what I brought back to Apple. It was about identifying our core values, our true purpose, and then stripping away everything that didn't serve that purpose. It was about understanding that our brand wasn't just about technology. It was about aspiration, about creativity, about empowering individuals. And you can't convey that message when your product line looks like a garage sale. You have to be clear, you have to be concise, you have to be focused. This analogy resonated because it highlighted a universal truth. True power comes from concentrated effort, from saying no to everything that isn't the absolute core of your mission. Nike didn't diversify into clothing lines or equipment that diluted their brand. They sharpened their focus on inspiring athletes. We needed to do the same for our users, inspire them with tools that were simply the best, elegantly designed, and undeniably Apple. Now let's dive a little deeper into the nuances of this. There's a paradox of priorities inherent in ruthless elimination. The areas you choose to neglect are not necessarily unimportant. In fact, they might be critically important in another context, or for another company. But for us, for our specific mission, they were distractions. The choice to disregard them is purely strategic, a temporary concentration of resources for a greater future benefit. This approach demands immense courage and absolute clarity of vision, because to external observers, it can often look irresponsible, even neglectful. People would ask, why are you cutting a profitable product like the Newton? And my answer was always, because it's not where we're going. It's not the future. It's about understanding that what's good for someone else, or even what was good for us yesterday, might be a fatal distraction today. You have to be willing to sacrifice the good for the great, always. This isn't about being short-sighted, it's about being long-sighted. It's about seeing the forest, not just the trees. It's about recognizing that true growth often requires pruning, sometimes even radical pruning. And that pruning, while painful in the moment, is what allows the tree to bear truly magnificent fruit. It's the difference between a sprawling, overgrown bush that produces small, insipid berries and a carefully cultivated tree that yields a few perfect, incredibly sweet apples. We chose the apples. My philosophy also encompassed the concept of half measures, full problems. I strongly believe that partial engagement is often no different than complete oversight. When an organization attempts to maintain a superficial level of focus on numerous initiatives, it inevitably dilutes its capacity for deep, impactful work. It leads to pervasive mediocrity. You can't dabble in greatness. You have to commit. You have to go all in. That's why my mantra was always no to 1,000 things. It wasn't just a catchy phrase, it was a fundamental operating principle. If you're not fully committed, if you're not pouring every ounce of your energy into something, then you're just creating a full problem for yourself down the line. You're building a house of cards, not a skyscraper. You're setting yourself up for failure, not breakthrough. Think about it. If you're working on 10 projects, how much real deep thought can you give to any one of them? You're constantly context switching, constantly shallow diving. That's not how you create something insanely great. That's how you create 10 things that are just okay. And okay is the enemy of great. It's the silent killer of innovation. It's the pervasive disease that infects large organizations, where everyone is busy, but nothing truly exceptional gets done. I would rather have a handful of people passionately committed to one project than an army of engineers giving half their attention to a dozen. The depth of engagement, the singular focus, that's where magic happens. That's where you find the details, the elegance, the user experience that truly delights. This ruthless approach had a profound impact on Apple's culture. It fostered an environment where excellence became the expected norm, not an exception. It meant making difficult decisions, like eliminating engineers' beloved projects. It often caused frustration, even anger. I was known for being hard-driving, terse, and uncompromising. I would frequently blow my stack when something wasn't done the right way, which invariably meant my way. Employees who continued to fail to believe in the vision, in the necessity of this focus, would be fired. That sounds harsh, I know, but it ultimately drove a collective focus on creating only what was truly insanely great. It pushed us all to transcend perceived limitations, to achieve what we initially deemed unattainable. The pressure was immense, yes, but so were the results. We weren't there to make friends, we were there to make the best products in the world. And sometimes, making the best products in the world means making tough calls and pushing people beyond what they thought they were capable of. It means demanding excellence relentlessly. It meant that every person at Apple understood that their work had to be exceptional, not just good. It created a culture where mediocrity simply wasn't tolerated, because we knew, from bitter experience, that mediocrity was a path to oblivion. It wasn't about being cruel. It was about being crystal clear on the standard of excellence. It was about creating a sense of urgency, a belief that what we were building truly mattered, and that anything less than perfection was unacceptable. This intense focus, this unwavering demand for greatness, is what allowed us to break through barriers that other companies considered impossible. You see, my ruthless elimination was a direct strategic response to Apple's precarious financial state and its diffused product strategy upon my return. That decisive action to simplify the product line, that was the cause. And what was the effect? A dramatic turnaround in profitability, and the laying of the groundwork for future revolutionary products like the iPod, iPhone, and iPad. The mechanism was simple. By strategically freeing up critical resources and top talent, we could focus, we could breathe, we could innovate. This demonstrates that the rapid turnaround and subsequent innovation were direct consequences of a deliberate and radical optimization of resources. It wasn't luck. It was strategy. It was conviction. It was the understanding that you can't build a future if you're constantly shackled by the past, by the good enough. You have to burn the boats, clear the decks, and focus all your energy on the destination. This wasn't just a business decision. It was a philosophical one. It was about defining who we were, what we stood for, and what we would not do. That clarity, that singular focus, was the engine of our resurgence. It allowed us to channel every ounce of our collective genius into a few, truly groundbreaking products that would redefine industries and change the way people lived, worked, and communicated. It was the ultimate demonstration that less can indeed be more, exponentially more, when that less is chosen with ruthless precision and unwavering conviction. So what can you take away from this? How can you apply this principle of ruthless elimination, this power of no, in your own life, in your own work, in your own organization? First, you must define your vital few. This involves identifying the 1, 2, maybe 3 core objectives or products that will drive the most significant impact. This demands brutal honesty about what truly matters. What is the absolute essence of what you're trying to achieve? If you can't articulate your vital few, you're already lost in the noise. You're already drowning in a sea of good ideas that will never become insanely great. Sit down, look at everything you're doing, and ask yourself, if I could only do one thing, what would it be? Then what's the second and the third? Be ruthless in this assessment. Don't let sentimentality or past investments cloud your judgment. The future demands clarity. This isn't a brainstorming session, it's an excavation. You're digging down to the bedrock of your purpose. This clarity will be your North Star, guiding every decision, making your no's intuitive and effortless. Second, you have to practice strategic indifference. This is about learning to say no to good opportunities, not bad opportunities, but good ones. Opportunities that, despite their appeal, would distract you from your vital few. Recognize that short-term trade-offs, the pain of cutting something that seems promising, can yield substantial long-term benefits. It's about playing the long game, not getting caught up in immediate gratification. It's about understanding that every yes to a new project, a new feature, a new client, means less energy, less time, less focus for your true priorities. You have to be willing to walk away from things that are perfectly fine, even profitable, if they don't serve your ultimate vision. This is where courage comes in. This is where conviction is tested. It's easy to say no to bad ideas. It takes real discipline, real strategic insight to say no to good ideas that aren't great ideas for you. This isn't about laziness. It's about discerning prioritization. Third, you must simplify ruthlessly. Apply the less is more philosophy, not just to your products, but also to your processes, your communication, your organizational structure. Eliminate clutter. Strip away the superfluous. Clarity emerges from reduction. If it doesn't add value, if it doesn't serve your vital few, then it's just noise. Get rid of it. Look at your meetings. Are they essential? Are they productive? Look at your reports. Are they truly necessary? Or are they just artifacts of bureaucracy? Look at your team structure. Is it lean and agile? Or is it bogged down by layers of management? Simplicity is hard work, but it pays off in clarity, efficiency, and ultimately impact.
It's about making the complex simple, not the simple complex. It's about making things intuitive, elegant, and effortless, and that only happens when you strip away everything that isn't absolutely essential. This relentless pursuit of simplicity will not only streamline your operations, but also clarify your message and strengthen your brand. Finally, and this is crucial, when you make those tough cuts, you must communicate the why clearly, articulate the strategic rationale to your teams, explain how these difficult decisions, this short-term pain, enables greater future success. People can handle tough news, they can handle radical change, if they understand the purpose behind it, if they see the vision, if they believe in the future you're building. Don't just announce cuts, explain the strategic imperative, show them the path forward, the insanely great future that these tough choices are making possible. Inspire them to believe in the new, focused direction, even if it means letting go of the old. Transparency, even when it's painful, builds trust, and trust is the foundation of any great team. You have to bring them along on the journey, even when the path is difficult. You must be the unwavering beacon that guides them through the storm, reminding them of the clear, bright future that awaits them on the other side of these difficult no's. My Ruthless elimination was a masterclass in strategic focus. It demonstrated, unequivocally, that true power and organizational effectiveness stem from clarity, and that clarity is derived from deliberate choices about what not to do. This principle allowed Apple to not only survive, but to thrive, setting a powerful precedent for how companies can regain focus and achieve unprecedented success. It's about understanding that your resources, your time, your money, your talent are finite, and if you spread them too thin, you achieve nothing. But if you concentrate them, if you focus them, like a laser beam on the few things that truly matter, you can achieve the impossible. You can change the world. So, I challenge you, look at your own life, your own work. What are you holding on to that's good, but not great? What are the distractions, the half measures, the things that are diluting your energy and your focus? What can you ruthlessly eliminate today to unlock that laser focus and achieve your most ambitious goals? The future belongs to those who have the courage to say no. The future belongs to those who understand that true power comes from focus, from clarity, from the relentless pursuit of the insanely great. Don't just do more, do better. And to do better, you often have to do less, much less. This is not merely a business strategy, it is a philosophy of life, a guide to living with purpose, passion, and profound impact. It's about recognizing that your finite existence demands infinite focus on what truly matters.